All right, let's bring in Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, member of the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, thanks for joining me. And, listen to this report about Justice Kavanaugh, but I don't think there's anyone who would understand this better than you. I mean, you were attacked in your backyard by a neighbor. You were on the baseball field when Steve Scalise was shot. You and your wife were leaving the White House, and a mob, was violently threatening the two of you. Is there more that Democrats have to do to push back against their party to stand down in regard to this violence?
As a victim of politically motivated violence, I'm particularly sensitive to this. Yeah. I've been speaking out since the beginning. I've been saying that it's dangerous for our justices, that we shouldn't be allowing crowds to, disrupt the public and be there at nighttime making noise. They should be arrested for disorderly conduct, and they should be removed. But the thing is the White House now steps up and says, well, we don't want to intimidate the justices. But the White House has steadfastly refused to condemn people outside of their houses. That's not peaceful protest. That is ginning up and encouraging and intimidating the justices, and it should not be allowed. If you want to stand in front of the Supreme Court, you can do that. But it is not part of the First Amendment to be in a neighborhood, keeping the neighbors awake. And then some of the neighbors of the justices were getting involved. How do you think they're going to feel when there's mayhem in the streets? Do you think any justice is going to go home when this is released? The justices won't be able to go home for months. So they're going to have to flee to other parts of the country, and that's a sad day. But the Biden administration has really refused to have a full-throated condemnation of the people gathering outside the justices' houses.
It's scary because it's not just, you, the politician, or the justice themselves. I mean, I think you have zip ties there, and you have a wife, and you have kids in your home, and it's really scary for the family. But what concerns me as well, you mentioned law enforcement, and where are they? You have the Department of Justice and the FBI that are very public about going after parents who might voice their opinions at school board meetings. However, when it comes to protests outside Supreme Court Justice's house, they really are kind of silent. I mean, where is the Department of Justice? Where is law enforcement to enforce the law and push back on these, potential protesters and lawbreakers?
Yeah, and the thing is all of us are concerned about potential violence and the potential for a mass shooting. Well, we should be concerned about it, and the concern is by releasing the justice's address. Look, other networks put my address on the evening news. They put global satellite pictures of my house on the evening news, encouraging people and encouraging crazy people. So no, it's got to stop. We've got to quit doing this to our justices, but we should quit doing this to our elected officials as well. Look, the thing that needs to be reported is that actually Republicans and Democrats talk to each other in Washington. You've been here. You've been part of this. It isn't that everybody's at each other's throats. We can have a civil discourse in this country, but the people who are ginning up and encouraging people to be in front of a justice's house, it's wrong, it's dangerous, and it's going to set up the milieu. It's going to set up the environment for violence, and we shouldn't, any of us, be saying that it's a good thing to have people in front of justices' houses.
And it goes, every politician, it should be bipartisan, because no one wants their life or their family threatened, whether a Republican or a Democrat or a right-leaning or left-leaning justice. Safety and security for everybody involved in government, I think, should be paramount for both sides of the aisle. But I want you to talk about this. We have a $30 trillion debt. You used to hear, when I first came to Congress, you first came to Congress, we talked about the debt so often, about how do we get our hands around it. You've come out with a plan to slash federal spending to balance the budget in 5 years. Tell me what's in the plan and what it'll bring for the American economy.
One of the things we voted on after the Tea Party swept a lot of us into office was a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. Every Republican voted for it. No Democrats did, and it failed. But in the context, or in the text of the balanced budget amendment, it says you should balance in 5 years. But then, as you know, many Republicans, when we were in charge, put forward budgets that never balanced, or they pretended balanced in 10 years. I stick with the 5 years. So I've been doing this for several years now. And when I started doing it, you could freeze spending and it would balance in 5 years. But then spending got worse, and then we called it the penny plan. Cut 1% and it balances in 5 years. But now you have to cut 6%. But is it doable? Absolutely, without question, it's doable. I can rattle off the top of my head dozens and dozens of wasteful projects that the American public would be horrified to know about. And I'll give you just one example. $750,000 spent to study Japanese quail to see if they're more sexually promiscuous on cocaine. It goes on and on. $2 million spent to study if someone sneezes on your food in front of you, whether you will take or pass that food up. A couple $1 million spent if you take selfies of yourself while smiling and look at those selfies later on in the day if that makes you feel happy. This is riddled throughout our government, and it gets worse every year. And just 2 months ago, a Republican, sort of half of the Republicans with the Democrats, voted to increase the National Science Foundation, which funds a lot of these projects, by 70%. It's got to stop. But both parties are guilty, and we got to quit spending the money.
But that's a great point. Both parties are guilty. They're both, on a spending binge. I think the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, came out and said in 10 years, we are going to spend $1.2 trillion just to service the debt, more than we spend on the military, Medicare, Medicaid. So we have to get it under control. And I'm happy you're doing this because one leader can actually rally other people to get on board. But is there any support for you, Senator, on the Hill? Are you, any other senators or House members that say, you know what, Rand Paul's got a great idea. I'm going to get on that bill?
So there's 100 senators, 50 of them are Democrats. None of them support a balanced budget or support cutting any spending or care about the debt. There are 50 Republicans. They all say they care about the debt, but about half or a little bit less than half of the Republicans will vote for a budget that balances in 5 years. And realize my budget doesn't specify where you cut the money. It just says you have to cut X to get to balance in 5 years. So they could actually choose how they want to create the budget. What would happen is the committees would do it, but over half of Republicans will vote against this because they're really not as conservative as they tell their folks when they go home.
So, and as a good conservative senator, you are there saying, you know what, we have to limit how much the federal government spends. We've got to cut spending. But Joe Biden at the same time right now is saying, you know what, I want to raise taxes. $3.5 trillion in new taxes over the next 10 years, take us from a corporate tax rate of 21% to 28%. And by the way, I think if he does that, there's no way you're ever going to balance the budget because they're never going to get spending under control.
We've been debating this since the era of Ronald Reagan. When we cut the tax rates in 2017, guess what? Revenue went up. There is no debate about this. The facts are in. Cutting tax rates did not lose and cause the deficit to get worse. Cutting tax rates actually created economic growth and more revenue came in. So the opposite happens a lot of times when you raise taxes. If you raise the tax rates on corporations, you'll get less productivity and less revenue. So we need to have this debate in a full-throated way, but the Democrats still can't admit that cutting taxes actually increases revenue because it increases economic growth.
100%. We saw that with Trump tax cuts. More revenue came into the federal coffers when we reduced the rates because there was more economic activity. But I want to get your take on this because the Biden administration says there's nothing they can do about high gas prices. Take a listen.
With respect to energy, the administration has done everything that they can to bring down energy costs.
Unfortunately, that is the brutal reality. You know, since Putin moved troops to the border of Ukraine, gas prices have gone up over $1.40 a gallon. And the president is asking for Congress and others for potential ideas. But as you say, the reality is that there isn't very much more to be done.
Senator, there's nothing else that can be done to bring down gas prices. You got to be, as a U.S. senator, you have to be losing your mind.
You have to understand what causes inflation if you want to fix it. Inflation is caused by deficit spending, and then the Federal Reserve prints up the money to buy our debt. When they do, it expands the money supply. The M2 has gone up at an annualized rate of 15% over the last 3 years. All that new money floods into the system and bids prices up. So a portion of inflation and gas prices going up is without question inflation caused by buying the debt. Now, there's another portion of this. Prices are caused by supply and demand. If you restrict the supply, the price will go up. So what has the Biden administration done? They've quit drilling for oil. They've quit allowing pipelines for oil. And they have said to the people who might build a refinery, we're going to have no gasoline-powered cars in 8 years. So everything they have done is to drive the price up. The war is a component. Speculation on the war is a component. But the primary component is broad-based inflation that's caused by deficit spending. And what does the Biden administration want to do? They want more deficit spending, so they haven't learned their lesson.
You know, if they don't recognize the problem exists and they're part of that problem, they'll never be able to fix it. And we're gonna blast past $5 a gallon. and it inflicts so much pain on the American family. It's shameful that this has been their position. But Senator, I want to thank you for joining me today, and thanks for your perspective.
Thank you.
All right.